I'm Shiva Panchakshari. Now I'm going to explain you about binary phase shift keying, BPSK. In digital communication, we find three basic modulation schemes: ASK, PSK, and FSK. All the three are having some advantages and disadvantages. All of them do the same purpose, but their implementation is different. In ASK, the amplitude of the carrier signal changes to represent digital symbols, keeping the frequency and phase constant. Similarly, in PSK, the phase of the carrier signal changes, and in FSK, the frequency. So, let us start our discussion of binary PSK here. So, the content of today's discussion is about understanding of PSK, then binary PSK as a special case, then signal constellation of binary PSK, signal space diagram of binary PSK. Then finally, we discuss the generation and coherent detection of BPSK signals. PSK, as the name itself indicating, in this modulation scheme, the phase of the carrier signal acquires different values to represent different symbols. If there are m number of digital symbols at the input, then we choose m number of equally spaced phase values for the carrier signals. But the frequency of the signal is not at all altered. Hence, this modulation scheme is a linear modulation scheme. Right. If the number of symbols are 2, that is binary source is there at the input, then we need only 2 phase values for the representation of the 2 binary symbols. Likewise, the number of phase values required are depending upon the number of symbols. So we divide the total phase of 360 degree into the number of symbols. So let us look into this block diagram of PSK modulator, in which the input is M array, nothing but M equiprobable digital symbols are available. The source emits any one of the symbols at a time. To represent this M number of digital symbols, we use M discrete amplitude levels. Okay. So using M discrete amplitude levels, these signals are represented, and finally the signaling is having multiple amplitudes. So in PSK, each of these discrete amplitude levels are converted to phase values. As I said, the total phase, that is 360 degree 2 pi, is divided by M, the number of symbols. So this will give a phase value. This 2 pi by M phase is offered to the carrier signal to represent the amplitude A1. Similarly, 2 times 2 pi by M is the phase value of symbol 2, that is amplitude A2. Likewise, the final value M into 2 pi by M. So like this, the 360 degree is equally divided into M number of phase values, so that the phase difference between 2 consecutive symbols will be constant. So as an example, if the input source is binary, then the total phase shift of 360 degree divided by 2 binary symbols, 2, it gives 180. That means the 2 phase values chosen to represent both the symbols must be having a difference of 180 degree. If the first symbol is represented by phase 0, then the second symbol must be represented by phase 180 degree. So likewise, phase values are chosen keeping frequency and amplitude constant, and we accordingly denote the PSK signals. As I said, in binary, two symbols, two phase values, 0 and 180 degree. When the signal is having a phase shift of 180 degree, we can also indicate that phase shift as minus sign in the amplitude. So remember, in PSK, when the phase shifts by 180 degree, we try to represent that as a amplitude inversion of the given signal. So only one signal is enough for representing PSK signal modulation with opposite polarity, plus and minus. The amplitude polarities will decide the phase. So okay, accordingly, the chosen signal for transmission is phi1 of t. The phi1 of t is called basis function, which will represent carrier of the BPSK signal later. This phi1 of t will be having equal amplitude but with opposite polarity, plus and minus. So positive amplitude may represent symbol 1, the negative amplitude may represent symbol 0. Accordingly, the symbols whatever used are EB stands for energy of the signal in 1 bit duration, TB. Okay. So root EB represents the voltage. The two amplitudes required are root EB and minus root EB, which will correspond to phase shift of 0 and 180 degree. So finally, the BPSK signal is defined as S of t, that is S of t is equal to S1 of t for symbol 1, S of t is equal to S2 of t for symbol 0. S1 of t is containing positive amplitude for phi1 of t, S2 of t is negative amplitude for phi1 of t to represent. So the phi1 of t, phi1 of t is same. That's why this kind of modulation is one dimensional, because only one basis function is enough to represent both the symbols. Let us observe the waveforms carefully. Here, the first waveforms represent binary information, okay, a sequence of ones and zeros. To represent 1, I use generally positive amplitude. To represent 0, in this particular case of BPSK, we use negative amplitude. Suppose pulse 1 is represented by amplitude of +1, pulse 0 will be represented by the amplitude value -1. This kind of signaling is called polar signaling, right? Since the pulse occupies complete time duration of TB, it's called non-return to 0 representation. And the 1 zeros are sequence, and this waveform, what I said, is having two discrete amplitude levels. So this waveform or polar signaling is having two discrete amplitude levels to represent two symbols. And we have a sinusoidal carrier signal. This is sine wave or cosine wave, not a matter. So what we do here, we multiply this input waveform, the baseband waveform, with respect to this, with this sinusoidal signal to get this final BPSK signal. So we have to multiply the input digital signal with the sinusoidal carrier signal to get the BPSK. Okay, right. So to get this proper BPSK signal, the polarity of this input pulse must be plus and minus, so that we get a phase inversion of 180 degree here. Okay. So for example, if the bit 1 is represented by a positive pulse of amplitude 1, let us say, 1 into carrier signal remains the same for bit 1. For bit 0, if the amplitude level is taken as -1, then -1 into the carrier signal is inverted value of the carrier signal. So this particular sine wave going positive towards positive polarity suddenly becomes negative, introducing 180 degree phase shift. Likewise, for bit 1, positive going sine wave, for bit 0, negative going sine wave. So like this, you can see the phase shift of 180 degree whenever there is a transition from bit 1 to bit 0 or bit 0 to bit 1. So looking into this waveform of BPSK, we can easily identify what bit was transmitted. Observe, the amplitude of the entire waveform remains same. So any fluctuations, any noise effects on the amplitude will not affect the information. The same thing is once again given here with appropriate representation. As I said, the input baseband waveform is given with polarity. Bit 1 plus 1 amplitude, bit 0 minus 1 amplitude. 1, 2, 3 on the x-axis represent, that is a digital period with 1 dB, 2 dB, 3 dB, so on so on. Sinusoidal carrier, multiplication of these two will get this one. Okay, here it is represented according to the scale. But carefully observe, guys, here. In 1 bit duration of TV, see here how many cycles of sinusoidal signals are present. 1, 2, 3, 4. And here also 1, 2, 3, 4. That means in every TV duration, the number of cycles of the sine wave must be fixed. Here it is taken as 4. So if I want to explain about the frequency of this carrier signal, FC is equal to 4 divided by TB. That means this TB is divided into 4 periods of the carrier signal. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. TB is larger, but period of this one sine wave is 4 times smaller. 4 times smaller. Okay. But the frequency of the sine wave is 4 times larger than this waveform. So that's why when you write an equation for FC is equal to, we can say FC is equal to 4 divided by 1 by TB. So frequency is inversion of the time. So one-dimensional, one basis function. Right. Basis functions means orthonormal functions. All basis functions are orthonormal. They are orthogonal to each other. Orthogonal to each other means when two different basis functions are multiplied and integrated over 1 bit period, you will always get 0. Instead of that, if a basis function is multiplied with itself and integrated over a period, you will get 1. This 1 is normalized value, hence it is orthonormal property. Phi 1 square, phi 2 square when integrated always produce 1. Product of phi 1 and phi 2 always gives you 0 after integration. This property of the basis functions are very useful in detection at the receiver. Okay. So with this, we once again try to understand BPSK signal S of t is going to be either S1 or S2, where S1 is containing positive amplitude for phi 1 of t, that is plus root dB, and S2 representing symbol 0 is having minus of root dB as amplitude for the same phi 1 of t. Okay, phi 1 of t is the basis function given by this equation of root of 2 by dB cos 2 pi t. Why this amplitude root of 2 by dB is taken for this cos? Because when this phi 1 of t, that is here, when you substitute this equation and integrate it after squaring, you'll always get 1. To get this 1, that just for the purpose of normalization, this amplitude is chosen. Yes. So now, in place of phi 1 of t, I have substituted this equation to get these two equations. Right. Final representation. Observe carefully the final representation here. See this one, cos 2 pi of ct representing symbol 1, cos 2 pi of ct. But representing symbol 2, that is second symbol, is minus amplitude. So this minus is taken out as a phase shift of 180 degree here. So both kind of represents are good. So you can write either like this or this negative amplitude. So let us discuss about signal constellation. Okay, that is signal components of the transmitted signals. There are two transmitted signals, S1 of t and S2 of t, representing the symbols, symbol 1 and symbol 0 respectively. Okay, so accordingly, S1 of t is containing first basis function phi 1 of t. S2 of t is also containing the first basis function phi 1 of t, but with different amplitude. So okay, right. So now let us do this operation. Take S1 of t and multiply with phi 1 of t. In S1 of t, the signal is root EB phi 1 of t. Phi 1 of t is already present. So phi 1 into phi 1 square of t, when integrated, will always gives 1. Previous slide we have seen that phi1 square of t after integration always gives 1. So 1 into root TB is root TB. Similarly here also, S2 of t also contains phi1 but with negative amplitude. Okay. So here this phi1 of t is missing here. Typing error. Assume that this phi1 of t is here. So phi1 into phi2 will get this value. So when you multiply S1 of t with phi1, you'll get a positive value of root TB. When you multiply S2 of t with phi1, you'll get negative amplitude of this. So at the receiver, when you're doing coherent detection, you have to keep this point in mind. That means when the received signal x of t, which we don't know whether it is S1 or S2, generally called x of t, when multiplied with phi1 of t, may give you any arbitrary value. If the arbitrary value, whatever you get is positive, then we decide symbol 1 was sent. If arbitrary value is negative, then we decide symbol 0 was sent. Like that. This concept helps us to go for coherent detection looking at this one. So these two values are expressed as a vector here. Okay, column vector. Root TB and minus root TB. With the help of these signal components, we can draw a signal space diagram, which is basically a Euclidean space, right, in which all the points represent certain quantities. Since it is a signal space required, every point here is a signal. Okay. Now with me, we have two signals, S1 of t and S2 of t. Both of them are same in their all characteristics except this amplitude, root TB and minus root TB. That's why on the axis of phi1, I have taken 2 points, one with value root TB, another with minus root TB. So plus root TB represents S11, minus root TB represents S21. Each one will represent two different message symbols. Okay. The gap between these two, that is the minimum, d minimum, the distance minimum here is 2 times root TB. So this is the Hamming distance right now. This distance plays a vital role in deciding the ability of the signal to fight against the noise and reach the receiver. So 2e root TB. EB will decide this day minimum value. So since there is only one axis of phi1, this is one-dimensional modulation scheme. Let us come to the generation part, that is a transmitter. So a transmitter is very simple. So binary sequence is given to level encoder. The level encoder shifts amplitude level of the input sequence. So whenever there is a bit 1, we choose root TB as amplitude. Whenever 0, we choose minus root TB as amplitude. This conversion of amplitude is done by level encoder with the help of polar signaling, positive negative signaling. So output is a signal M of t. M of t is a train of pulses of amplitude of plus root TB and minus root TB. And this signal is finally given to a product modulator, which will multiply this incoming signal with the basis function phi1 of t. Okay. So the output is phi1 of t into root TB for bit 1, phi1 of t into minus root TB for bit 0, which is called BPSK signal. Right. The same explanation is given here. Right. Accordingly, according to the block diagram of the BPSK transmitter, we end up with this equation. Okay. Root TB is here. Phi1 of t, that is this equation. When multiply with root TB, we'll get this equation. And accordingly, minus root TB gives second equation. So for both the symbols. So when you come to the receiver, the BPSK receiver with coherent detection will be discussed here. Okay. So keep it in mind. We are discussing only coherent detection of the BPSK signal at this point. The non-coherent detection of BPSK signal is also possible, which will be discussed in some other video. Okay. Take the receiver. The first is received signal x of t. We don't know whether x of t is S1 of t or S2 of t. Right. To know that one, we multiply with phi1 of t. Both S1 of t and S2 of t contain phi1 of t, no problem. Then that incoming signal multiplied with phi1 of t and integrated will get x1. If there is no noise on the channel, then the x1 will be either root TB or minus root TB. correct? If the transmitted symbol is 1, then you will get root EV here. If the transmitted symbol is 0, then you will get minus root EV. But because of the added noise to the transmitted signal, this x1 value will not be exactly equal to root EV. So it will be some other value. But we always look into the polarity of this x1. If the x1 is positive, go in favor of symbol 1. If x1 is negative, go in favor of symbol 0. So that's why we compare x1 with this 0 threshold. So check whether it is positive or negative. If x1 is greater than 0, choose 1. Less than 0, then choose 0. If x1 is exactly equal to 0, then decision should be made using a fair coin, by tossing a fair coin. That means you can randomly choose either bit 1 or bit 0, okay, with 50% probability of error. The same explanation given over here, right? This x of t is multiplied with phi of t. X of t is multiplied with phi 1 of t and integrated here. After integration, you will get the number x1, which is the observable element. This you have to observe carefully to decide. Then decision divide, compare this x1 value with the two different conditions to decide in favor of bit 1 or bit 0. And y threshold is 0. I've reproduced the signal space diagram once again. Message point 2 have value of minus root EB and this one is plus root EB. That's why decision boundary is in the middle to check whether the x1 falls very close to root EB or very close to minus root EB. If the x1 is very close to root EB, we decide in favor of bit 1. Minus root EB, we decide in favor of bit 0. So decision boundary always divides entire signal space into two equal parts. Right. So with this, we end the session of discussion of BPSK signal and about its basic points, generation, detection, signal constraints, and all those things, right? So after this, whatever left is, that is error probability calculation, will be discussed in another video. So those who are interested can refer to that video also. Okay. Thank you for your patience hearing. We shall end the session here.